All right, so let's take you back to our top story tonight, and that is of Sirisia Member of Parliament John Waluke could be forced to pay more than 1 billion shillings as fines for defrauding the National Cereals and Produce Board of 313 million shillings. That took place over 10 years ago. The anti-corruption court this evening fined Waluke and his co-accused upwards of 1 billion shillings each, spread across 5 different counts. Sam Gituku reports that in addition to the financial headache, Waluke could lose his seat and push Sirisia constituency to a by-election as a direct result of what is a landmark ruling against corruption. Waluke and Wahungu will also be spending the night behind bars as the sentences kick off pending appeal of payment of the fines.
The Sirisia legislator made his entry into the courtroom a forlorn figure in total contrast from the usual charisma of the Jubilee legislator. He had been in custody for 3 nights and came for a date with fate. Joining his co-accused in the convicts bench, 79-year-old Grace Wahungu, with whom they have been found guilty of defrauding the National Cereals and Produce Board of amounts totaling to 313 million shillings using a company they are directors of Erad Supplies and General Contracts Limited. And even though their lawyers spent the afternoon pleading for mercy and leniency on the side of Chief Magistrate Elizabeth Juma, it fell on deaf ears as she stuck to the law.
We urge the court to kindly consider and exercise discretion in the favor of the second accused for purposes of enabling him to conclude his term in Parliament and also roll out the aid to the many who depend on him.
You have been told that the second accused is likely to lose his seat of parliament. So what? There are many other people in Sirisia who qualify to hold that seat.
Under count number 3, where the two are accused of defrauding NCPB 297 million shillings, each of them has been fined double the amount, that is 594 million shillings, as mandatory fine, failure to which they face imprisonment for 7 years. This on top of 500,000 shillings as fine for the offence, failure to which they face imprisonment for 3 years. Erad Limited, the company that the two are co-directors, has been fined an equal amount, but to be paid by the two or face 7 years imprisonment. And for defrauding the NCPB up to 13.3 million shillings, the two face similar predicament. A fine of 500,000 shillings for the offence, and then double the amount as mandatory fines, meaning Waluke will have to pay 26.7 million shillings, and on top of that pay half of the fine levied on his company, that is 13.3 million shillings. The other half is to be paid by Grace Wahungu. They are also accused of defrauding NCPB of $24,000. For that, a fine of 500,000 shillings has been charged. On top of it, they are to pay a mandatory fine of double the loot, meaning $48,000. And that's not all. Erad Limited has similar fines to be shared between the two. Upon conversion, the stolen dollars will attract 7.6 million shillings in fines against each of the two. John Waluke is further accused of taking a personal benefit of 50 million shillings. For that, he is required to pay a mandatory fine of double the amount, 100 million shillings. Wahungu is accused of drawing a personal benefit of 40 million shillings, her mandatory fine being double the amount, 80 million shillings. But Wahungu was separately found guilty of uttering false documents and perjury, each of the two offences attracting a fine of 100,000 shillings or imprisonment for 1 year. In total, the Sirisia Member of Parliament may have to part with at least 1.04 billion shillings to secure his freedom. If not, he could serve a jail term for at least 7 years until 2027. For Grace Wahungu, she may have to spend time in jail for a similar period or part with 1.02 billion shillings. A fraudulent business worth 313 million shillings may cost the two a total of more than 2 billion shillings financially, but it may also cost a second-term Member of Parliament his seat.
And the second accused being a public officer, the conviction to be served, the Speaker of National Assembly and the Parliamentary Service Commission for purposes of compliance of Section 63, 1, pending any outcome of any appeals.
The two can, however, appeal the decision in 14 days' time. For now, they remain in custody. Sam Gituko, Citizen TV, Nairobi.